Every year, my children would forget to wish me a happy Mother's Day. This year, I decided to buy myself a beach house. When they arrived with a lawyer, attempting to take it away from me, they wrongly believed I was alone. They had no idea I had a witness, security cameras, and a deputy from the county sheriff's office supporting me. My name is L.R. Boudreaux. I am 69 years old. This is the story of how my own children tried to erase me from my life. It was Sunday, May 10th, Mother's Day. I had woken up early, as I always do. I brewed coffee and laid the table with the embroidered cloth my mother had given me 40 years ago. I brought out the fine china, the pieces reserved for special days. I baked homemade biscuits. The delicious aroma filled the entire house. I placed fresh daisies in the center of the table, my favorite flowers. I waited patiently. My phone sat beside my coffee cup. I looked at it every 5 minutes. The screen stayed dark. No calls, no texts, nothing. I thought they might just arrive unexpectedly. A surprise visit would have been wonderful. Simone always said she enjoyed surprises, and Marcus felt the same. So I waited a little longer. I prepared lunch, my special oxtail stew, the one they loved as children. It was the meal I made on Sundays when they came home from the park with scraped knees and red cheeks. I carefully chopped the vegetables, imagining their faces when they walked in and smelled that familiar aroma. But the door never opened. By around 3 hours in the afternoon, I picked up my phone and scrolled through social media. I don't know why I did it. Perhaps because I wanted to see their faces, maybe because a small part of me still believed there was an explanation. That's when I saw it. Simone had posted a picture. She was at a fancy downtown restaurant, one of those upscale places. She wore a new dress, smiling brightly. Next to her was Marcus, also smiling. They were friends, glasses of wine, plates full of food. The caption read, "Perfect Sunday with the people who matter." I read that phrase 3 times, 4 or 5, the people who matter. I wasn't in that photo. I wasn't at that restaurant. I wasn't one of the people who mattered. I looked at the table I had set, the biscuits now cold, the flowers starting to wilt, the stew no one was going to eat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring into the emptiness between what I had hoped for and what my life actually was. But then something changed in that moment, something small, like a tiny crack in a window, barely visible, yet enough for everything else to start falling apart. Because this wasn't the first year. Last year, they didn't call either. Simone sent a text at 11 o'clock at night. It said, "Sorry, Mama. The day got away from me. Love you." Empty words, phrases typed in 10 seconds and forgotten in 5. The year before that was even worse. They had promised to come for lunch, so I prepared everything carefully. I bought special cuts of meat and made Marcus's favorite dessert. I waited patiently until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then Simone called. She said something urgent had come up, but she didn't say what it was. She only said, "You know how it is, Mama?" And then she hung up. I didn't understand what she meant, but I was beginning to get an idea. I put the food away in the refrigerator, washed the dishes, folded the tablecloth, and placed the flowers in a smaller vase, all quietly, with slow and automatic movements. That night, I couldn't get to sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, lost in thought and memories, trying to remember exactly when I had become invisible to them. Was it when they got married? When they started their own families? Or when they secured important jobs and big houses? Or was it even before that? Was it when I raised them alone after their father left us? When I worked 2 jobs so they could attend good schools? When I sold my jewelry to pay for Simone's college tuition? When I mortgaged the house to help Marcus start his business? And was that when I stopped mattering? The next day on Monday, my phone rang. It was Simone. "Hey, Mama," she said in that bright, superficial voice she had perfected over the years. "How are you?" "Fine," I answered. "That's good. Sorry about yesterday. It was a hectic day. We had a commitment we couldn't cancel." "You know how it is." That phrase again. "You know how it is." "Yes," I said. "I understand. We'll make it up to you soon. I promise." "Oh, and Marcus wanted to call you too, but he's in meetings all day. He sends a kiss?" "Sure," I replied. We ended the call. 30 seconds. That was it. 30 seconds to fulfill her obligation, to convince herself she had called her mother, that she had done the right thing. I sat in the living room armchair. the same one I used to rock them in when they were babies, where I read bedtime stories to them and comforted them during nightmares. It was in that moment I realized something important. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't forgetfulness. It was deliberate. They had intentionally, carefully, and systematically erased me from their lives. I was no longer part of their world. I had become just a formality, an obligatory phone call, a brief 10-word message, an empty apology. I was the woman who had given them life, yet I was no longer necessary. And the hardest part was that they probably didn't even realize what they were doing. To them, I had simply vanished from the center of their existence. I had become part of the background, peripheral, optional, but I was still here, breathing, feeling, and existing. And in that moment, sitting in that chair with the afternoon sun shining through the window, I made a choice. I was not going to disappear just because they decided not to see me. I would not keep waiting for calls that never arrived. I would not keep setting tables for ghosts. I decided to do something for myself, something just for me. That was the start of it all. Memories began flooding in, coming like waves, one after another, without mercy, without stopping. I stayed awake that night and the next and the following because once I opened that door to my memories, I couldn't close it again. I started recalling little things, details that seemed unimportant at the time, but now, when viewed together, they revealed a pattern, a clear and painful picture. Marcus's birthday was in March, 2 months earlier. I had sent him a gift, a costly shirt I saw at a store downtown. I spent nearly $200 on it, more than I could really afford, but he was my son. I wanted him to know I was thinking of him. He never expressed any thanks. I waited a week, then two, but heard nothing. So I sent him a message asking, did the package arrive? He replied 6 hours later, simply saying, yeah, Mama, thanks, it's nice. Just 3 words plus a period. That was all. But what really hurt was what I found out later. Simone had shared photos from Marcus's birthday celebration. It was a big party at his house, with balloons, cake, and many guests. I hadn't been invited, and I didn't even know there was going to be a celebration. When I asked Marcus about it several days afterward, he told me, oh, it was a last-minute thing, Mama. Just informal. We didn't want to bother you with the drive. We didn't want to bother you, as if my being there was a problem. As if celebrating his birthday was an inconvenience for everyone. Yet I kept recalling other moments. In February, on Valentine's Day, Simone posted pictures of a romantic dinner with her husband Darnell. Champagne glasses, candles, red roses everywhere. She looked happy. I sent her a message that day, wishing her a lovely night. She never responded. It was January and it was New Year's. I called both Marcus and Simone. I wanted to wish them well for the year ahead. I also wanted to hear their voices. Neither of them answered. I left them long messages expressing how much I loved them and how hopeful I was that this year would be special for them. The next day, Marcus replied with a brief text. Thanks, Mama. Happy New Year. Simone never responded, but what hurt me most was Christmas. Just 5 months earlier, last December, we had agreed to spend Christmas together at my house, as we always did. I bought everything needed, the turkey, the ingredients for dinner, the presents. I decorated the entire house, put up the tree and the lights. Everything looked festive. 3 days before Christmas, Simone called me. Mama, we have a change of plans, she said. Her voice sounded distant, rehearsed. We're going to spend Christmas at Marcus's in-laws' house. His mother-in-law is not in good health, and she wishes for the whole family to be together. I hope you understand. I can come if I want, she added. But the way she said it made it clear it was simply a formality, an empty invitation. It will be crowded, and the trip is quite far, about a 3-hour drive from your house. I don't know if you want to make that journey. I understand, I responded. I knew you would understand. You're the best, Mama. We will bring your gift later. They never brought me any gift. I spent Christmas alone. I ate a piece of turkey in front of the TV. I watched old movies. I cried a little. But I told myself the next year would be different. How silly I was. I kept digging through my memory, searching, recalling. In November, it was my birthday. I turned 69 years old, almost 7 decades of life. Simone sent a text at 10 o'clock at night. Happy birthday, Mama. God bless you, with a cake emoji. Marcus didn't send anything, nothing at all. When I confronted him about it 2 days later, he apologized, saying, "Sorry, Mama. It slipped my mind. I've been under a lot of stress at work. You understand how it is. You know how it is." That phrase had become their common excuse, the answer for everything. It was the shield behind which they hid. But there was more, so much more. In October, they held a family gathering on Simone's side, a celebration meal of some kind. I don't know exactly what for. I saw the photos posted on social media. Her husband Darnell's entire family was there: cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, children running around, lots of laughter. I wasn't invited. When I asked Simone about it, she said, "Oh, it was something for Darnell's family, Mama. I didn't want to make you uncomfortable by putting you in the middle of people you don't know." But Darnell's mother was there, and she didn't know everyone either, yet she was invited. I was not. In September, Marcus asked to borrow $500 from me. He said it was an emergency and promised to pay me back in 2 weeks. I lent him the money, even though it meant I had to tighten my belt that month, skip a few meals, and go without the medication I needed. I gave it to him because he is my son. He never paid me back. And when I asked him about it a month later, he said, "Oh, Mama, don't pressure me. I'll pay you soon. Don't be like that. Don't be like that." As if I were the one causing trouble. As if asking him to keep his word was an attack. In August, it was Simone's daughter's birthday. My granddaughter Aliyah was turning 7. I bought her a lovely gift, a doll I saw on her wish list. It cost $150, but she was my only granddaughter. I went to the party with my present wrapped in shiny paper with a big bow. I arrived early and rang the doorbell. Simone opened the door. She looked surprised, almost annoyed. "Mama," she said, "I didn't know you were coming." "What do you mean you didn't know? Today is Aliyah's birthday. I am her grandmother." "Yes, I told you. It's just, well, never mind. Come inside." She let me in, but she didn't greet me warmly or give me a hug. She simply stepped aside so I could enter. The house was full of people: kids, parents, decorations everywhere, balloons, music, a table with candies. But no one spoke to me. I sat down in a chair tucked in the corner, holding my purse on my lap. Yeah, I watched Aliyah as she opened her presents. When she got to mine, she barely looked at it. "Another doll," she said without much interest, and put it aside. Simone didn't even thank me. I stayed about an hour, maybe less. No one even noticed when I left. All these memories, all these small moments of being left out made me feel invisible. None of it was accidental. They weren't coincidences. It was a pattern, clear, intentional, and deliberate. They had been slowly erasing me, day after day, until they no longer even bothered to hide it. I sat in my living room surrounded by old photographs, memories of them as children when they needed me, when I was their whole world. At what point did everything change? When did I stop being mama and become a burden? Because that is what I was now. I knew it. I felt it. I was the woman they found uncomfortable, the one who asked questions, the one who expected phone calls, the one who simply wanted their attention. I was always too much. And they had decided, without telling me, that it was easier to just push me away, keep me at a distance, and give me only crumbs of affection when they felt guilty. But no more. That night, as I looked at those photographs, I understood something essential. I could no longer live this way. I couldn't keep waiting for love from people who had chosen not to give it. I could no longer keep pleading for a place in my own children's lives. I knew I had to do something, change my life. I had to do it now before I completely forgot who I was, before I disappeared entirely. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. I find it difficult to explain. It was as if something inside me had broken, or perhaps had been healed. I'm not quite sure. I got out of bed, made some coffee, sat by the window, and for the first time in many years, I didn't think about them first. Instead, I thought of myself. Who was I now? It became clear I wasn't the mother they needed. They didn't need me. Maybe they never truly did. They only needed what I could give: the money, the support, the sacrifices. But as a person, me as Laura, with my dreams, my desires, my heart, that never mattered to them. And it was time to accept that, not with anger or shouting, not with drama, but with the calm, painful clarity of someone finally seeing the truth. My children did not love me the way a daughter and a son should love their mother. They may have cared for me from a distance or in a convenient way. Perhaps they thought of me only when they needed something. Maybe they even felt guilty now and then. But genuine love, love shown through presence, time, effort, and sacrifice, simply did not exist. I spent many years trying to convince myself otherwise. I spent years making excuses, justifying their behavior, and hoping things would change. But I knew deep down they wouldn't. Things weren't going to change. If I wanted a life worth living, I had to be the one to make a change. I would sit by the window for hours, watching the cars go by, observing people walk past, feeling the world keep moving while my heart broke inside. Then a thought appeared, small and almost insignificant at first, but it grew and grew until it filled my mind entirely. What if I just left? Not forever, not in a dramatic way. What if I created a life away from them? A life that was only mine? What if I stopped waiting? The thought frightened me because it meant facing something no mother wants to accept. It meant surrendering, but it also promised freedom. I turned on my computer, that old one Marcus had given me years ago, when he no longer needed it. I waited for it to start up and began searching for houses along the coast. I'm not sure why I thought of the beach. Perhaps because I've always loved the sea. Maybe because, as a girl, I dreamed of living near the ocean. Or perhaps because I desperately needed something entirely different from this house filled with memories. I spent days exploring options. Small houses, apartments, cottages, simple but charming places where I could wake up to the sound of waves, walk barefoot on the sand, and start fresh. The prices were steep, very steep still. I had some savings I had saved over many years, money I had intended to leave to them after I was gone. But why wait until then? Why not use that money now for my own happiness? The idea was almost revolutionary, nearly seen as forbidden, because my entire life had been devoted to them, giving to them, sacrificing myself for their sake. But what about me? When was it my turn? I found a small house, a two-bedroom home, a simple kitchen, a comfortable living room with large windows that looked out onto the sea, and a porch where I could sit quietly in the evenings. It cost 180,000, almost all of my savings, almost all of my life's earnings. Yet I wanted it. I wanted it with a longing I hadn't felt in years. I called the number in the advertisement. A woman answered. Her name was Brenda. Her voice was kind and warm. I said I wanted to see the house. Of course, she replied. When can you come? Tomorrow. And so it was arranged. The next day, I took a bus, traveled 3 hours, and arrived at that coastal town I had never visited before. The air felt different, cleaner, fresher, filled with a sense of new possibilities. Brenda was waiting for me outside the house. She was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair and friendly eyes. She greeted me with a warm hug. You must be, she said. Yes. Come on, I'll show you everything. We stepped inside, and as soon as I crossed the threshold, I knew this place was meant for me. The walls were painted white, and the floors were light wood. The windows let in so much sunlight, it was as if the sun itself was living inside. And then there was the sound of the sea, a gentle, constant rhythm, like a heartbeat. It's perfect, I said. Brenda smiled. I knew it. I knew you would love it. When can I buy it? Are you sure? Absolutely. Brenda looked at me with curiosity. May I ask you something? Yes. Are you running away from something? Or are you running toward something? I paused for a moment, thinking and feeling. Both, I finally replied. She nodded as if she understood completely. Sometimes it's necessary. Sometimes we need to look after ourselves. She was right. A week later, we signed the papers. I transferred all my savings, everything I owned, and the house became mine. I didn't tell Simone or Marcus anything. I didn't ask for their permission. I didn't seek their opinions. I didn't explain myself because I felt I didn't have to. This was my choice, my life, my money. For the first time in many years, I was doing something purely for myself. I began packing my belongings slowly. Clothes, books, photographs, and the essentials. I planned to move in a month. I was planning to leave this house, this city, this life behind. I was ready to start anew. But 3 days before I was scheduled to move, Brenda called me. Her voice sounded tense. I need to tell you something important, she said. What's wrong? I asked. She explained that she had been talking to a lawyer friend. She told her about my purchase, about me having children, and the lawyer had said something that made her worried. What is it? She told me I should protect that property legally, making sure no one, especially family, can take it away from me. She mentioned she has seen many cases where children try to claim their elderly parents' property. I froze. Why would they do that? I asked, though I already understood the answer. For money? It's usually about money, control, or feeling entitled. But this is my house. I bought it with my own money, I know, but sometimes those things don't matter. Family can complicate matters in unexpected ways. What should I do? You should visit my friend. Her name is Chloe. She's very skilled at helping people in situations like yours. She can assist you in protecting yourself. The next day, I went to see Chloe. Her office was small but neat. She was a young woman, maybe 35, with a serious and professional appearance. I told her everything about the house, my children, and how I had been treated. She listened quietly, took notes, and nodded now and then. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and said, I want to be completely honest with you. What you're describing sounds like the early signs of financial abuse of the elderly. I'm not saying your children will certainly do anything wrong, but the warning signs are there. The emotional distance, the request for money, the lack of respect, these can all lead to more serious issues. She paused and then asked, what can I do? I explained, first, you must keep records of everything, every conversation, message, and interaction. Second, it's important to legally protect your property. We will set up a trust and install security cameras in the house. That way, if anyone tries anything suspicious, we will have proof. She looked me directly in the eye and asked, Destu, do you really think all that is necessary? I replied, I hope not. I hope your children respect your peace and let you live comfortably. But from what I've learned, it's always better to be prepared because when things turn ugly, they do so very quickly. So I followed everything she advised. I installed cameras, hired a lawyer, and kept a record of every message and call. I waited patiently because deep down I sensed this wasn't the end. Something told me that when Simone and Marcus discovered the house, everything would come to a head. And I was right. I moved into the beach house in June on a Tuesday morning. The moving truck was there early. Two men carefully loaded my few belongings. Some boxes of clothes, a bit of furniture, and photographs I couldn't bring myself to leave behind, even though they caused pain to look at. I closed the door of my old home for the last time. The house where I had raised my children, filled with memories, some happy, most now tinged with sadness. I didn't look back. The drive was long but calm. I arrived in the afternoon when the sun was shining brightly. The sea shimmered in the sunlight. And then when I stepped out of the car in front of my new house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: peace. The first few days were spent adjusting, unpacking, settling in, meeting the neighbors, walking along the beach, and getting used to the constant sound of the waves. I didn't tell Simone or Marcus that I had moved. I simply stopped answering their occasional calls with the same urgency. I stopped being available all the time. I stopped being the mother who waited by the phone. 2 weeks went by, then 3, then a month. Neither of them asked where I was. Neither noticed I was gone. Or if they did, they didn't care enough to find out. That was a clear sign of everything I already believed. But then, one Saturday morning, everything changed. I was watering the plants on the porch when my phone rang. It was Simone. Mama, she said. Her voice sounded strange, overly sweet and overly eager. How have you been? It's been a while since we talked. Fine, I responded cautiously. That's good. Listen, Marcus and I want to come visit you. It's been so long since we saw you. How about this weekend? It was so unexpected that I was left speechless. After months of ignoring me and years of making me feel invisible, she suddenly wanted to visit. Why the sudden interest, I wondered. What do you mean? I asked. We're your family. We miss you. We want to see you. But there was something insincere in her voice, as if she had rehearsed her words. How did you know where I am? I asked. There was a brief pause, too short, as if she had been expecting that question. We went to your old house, and the neighbors told us you had moved. They gave us your new address. That was a lie. I hadn't shared my address with the neighbors. I see, I said. So can we come tomorrow? Maybe we'll bring lunch. We could spend the day together. A knot tightened in my stomach. A warning bell rang in my mind. Let me think about it, I told her. I'll call you back later. I ended the call before she could push further. I remained there, holding the phone, my heart pounding fast. How did they find my address, and why are they suddenly so interested? I called Chloe right away. Something's going on, I told her. I mentioned Simone's call to her. Have you told them about the house? She asked. No, not to anyone. Only you and Brenda know. Then someone else must have told them, or they discovered it themselves. Era, I don't like this. I really don't. What do you think they want? I was unsure, but I advised her to activate all the security cameras and not to let them inside the house alone. Do you have someone who can stay with you? I can ask Brenda. Do that and keep me updated on everything. I called Brenda next. I explained what was happening. Without hesitation, she said, I'm on my way now, and added she'd stay all weekend if needed. She arrived the same afternoon with a small suitcase and a determined look in her eyes, which made me feel a little less alone. I wasn't sure if I was overreacting, I confessed to her. She reassured me, You're not overreacting. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. The next day, Sunday, Simone called again. Mama, we're coming over. We're leaving in an hour. Do you need us to bring anything? I replied, Simone, I don't think it's a good idea for you to come today. She asked, Why not? I told you we want to see you. She added, I'm busy. I questioned, Busy with what? She urged, Come on, Mama, don't be difficult. Then she said the words that confirmed everything. Besides, we want to see your new house. They say it's beautiful, right on the ocean. It must have cost a fortune. That was it. They weren't coming just to see me. They wanted to see the house. I asked, Who told you that? She dismissed it. It's not important. The point is, we're excited to see it. Marcus is coming too, along with his wife. We're going to have a family day. I firmly said, No, I said clearly, don't come today. She pleaded, Mama, don't be difficult. We're already on our way. And she hung up. I looked at Brenda, who had heard the entire conversation. They're coming anyway, she said. Yes, I answered. Then we prepare. We turn on all the cameras, those at the entrance, on the porch, in the living room, and in the yard. Chloe arrived half an hour later. She had called earlier, saying she planned to come and that she wanted to be there. If this is going where I think it is, she said, I need to see it myself and I want it recorded. The three of us sat quietly in the living room waiting. 2 hours later, exactly as Simone had predicted, they arrived. A large, black, expensive SUV was parked in front of my house. Simone and Marcus stepped out, but they weren't alone. With them was a man I didn't recognize. Gray suit, briefcase in hand, serious expression. Behind them came Marcus's wife, a woman who had always looked down on me. I looked at Chloe and asked, Who is that man? She narrowed her eyes. If I had to guess, I'd say he is a lawyer. My heart skipped a beat. They knocked loudly and insistently at the door. Brenda took my hand and whispered, Breathe, you're not alone. I slowly reached out and opened the door. Simone went inside first, without waiting to be asked, her eyes roaming over everything, as if she were assessing and figuring things out. She looked at me but didn't hug me or even make eye contact. Her gaze was fixed on the house, the windows, and the view of the ocean. Marcus followed right after, also not greeting me warmly, just a quick kiss on the cheek, no more. Then the man in the suit stepped in. Mrs. Boudreau, he said, extending his hand. My name is Leonard Vance. I am an attorney. I represent your children. That was the confirmation I needed. They hadn't come to see me. They had come to take my house. Chloe stood up. I'm Chloe Dubois, attorney for Mrs. Boudreau, and I would like to understand exactly why you are here, she said. Simone's face shifted. Surprise, confusion, anger. A lawyer? Why would you need a lawyer, Mama? That's a very good question, Simone, Chloe replied. Why would your mother need a lawyer? Is there something she needs protection from? Leonard cleared his throat. Mrs. Boudreau, we are speaking to you on behalf of your children because they are worried about your health and safety. They told us that you recently made a large purchase, spending all your savings, and they are concerned that you may not be in a good enough condition to make such decisions. I am not in a condition, I repeated. My voice sounded unusual and far away. What my client meant, Marcus explained, is that we are worried someone might have taken advantage of you, Mama. That someone convinced you to buy this house. That you were influenced. Influenced? I asked. Yes, Simone added. Look, Mama, we know you're upset with us. Maybe we haven't been perfect children lately. We admit that. But this is too much. Spending all your money on a house you don't need and pulling away from your family, this isn't normal. Brenda stepped forward. I'm Brenda Wallace. I sold this house to Mrs. Boudreau, and I can assure you no one manipulated her. She came willingly, using her own money and making her own choice. And who are you to interfere? Simone challenged her. A salesperson, a stranger, and now you're here defending her against her own family. I am here, Brenda said quietly, because your mother asked me to be here. Apparently, she knew you would come and realized she would need support. This is ridiculous, Marcus replied. Mama, tell these people to leave. We need to talk as a family. No, I said. My voice came out louder than I expected. They stay. And you are going to tell me exactly what you are doing here now. Leonard opened his briefcase and took out some documents. Mrs. Boudreau, your children have prepared these papers to protect you, to keep your assets safe. They are meant to transfer the ownership of this house into a trust managed by your children. That way, you could continue living here, but they would make sure no one takes advantage of you. A trust managed by them, Chloe said. Her voice was cold and emotionless. Are they asking you to give them your house? Isn't that so? It's for her own benefit, Simone replied. My own benefit, I questioned. And for the first time in my life, I saw my children with total clarity. Where were you on Mother's Day? Where were you on my birthday? Where were you when I needed you? Mama, don't start. Marcus asked, where were you? I repeated. No one responded. I offered, I'll tell you. You weren't here. You've never been here. But now that you want something, here you are with a lawyer and papers, trying to take the only thing that's mine. That's not how it is, Mama, Simone insisted, but her voice no longer sounded convincing. I looked at those papers in Leonard's hand. I looked at my children. I looked at their faces and realized that everything Chloe had predicted was true. They had come to take what was mine. Chloe quickly grabbed the documents from Leonard's hands before he could react. She quickly glanced through the papers. Her eyes moved quickly across the pages, and her face grew more serious with each paragraph. Finally, she said, This is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. What's the matter? I asked. These documents aren't meant to protect you, Aura. They're designed to take your rights away. She paused. If you signed this, you would lose all control over this property. Your children would have full authority. They could sell it whenever they wish. They could evict you at any time, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. That's not true, Leonard replied firmly. The trust clearly states that Mrs. Boudreau can stay here until she passes away. Yes, as long as they allow it, Chloe responded. But it also says they can make decisions about the property without her approval, including selling it if they believe it necessary for her medical care. That clause is so broad that it basically gives them free rein to do whatever they want. You're misunderstanding, Simone said. Her voice was rising. She was trying to protect Mama. From whom? Brenda asked. From you? Simone snapped. Strangers who appear out of nowhere and suddenly act like they're better children than us. I don't pretend to be your daughter, Brenda replied quietly. I'm just someone who shows respect to your mother. Something you clearly never learned to do. Marcus stood up. We're not going to stay here and be insulted. No one is insulting you, I said. They are just speaking the truth. The truth? You want the truth, Mama? Marcus moved closer to me. The truth is you've always been difficult, always needing attention, always making us feel guilty. It was never enough for you. We were never enough. I was the difficult one. My voice shook. I was the one working 2 jobs to give you an education. I sold my belongings to pay for your little wishes. I never denied you anything. Still, I was the difficult one. Always with the same thing, Simone said, always reminding us of everything you did, as if we owe you our entire lives. I don't need to be reminded of anything. You know it. You simply chose to forget. This isn't going anywhere, Leonard interrupted. Mrs. Boudreau, my clients are willing to be generous. If you sign these papers today, they promise to visit you once a month, call you every week, and include you in family celebrations. I looked at him in disbelief. You're bribing me with affection, I said. You're offering me tiny bits of attention in exchange for my house. It's not a bribe, Simone responded. It's a promise. We all benefit. You keep your house, and we make sure you're protected while we rebuild our relationship. What relationship? I asked. We don't have one. You've erased me from your lives years ago. That's not true, Marcus said. But he sounded uncertain. Unconvincing, isn't it? When was the last time you came to visit me? When was the last time you called just to check how I was doing? When was the last time you included me in something without me having to ask? Silence. Exactly, I said. Chloe moved closer to me and spoke softly. R, I need you to tell me something. Do you have all the conversations saved? The messages, the calls? Yes, I replied. Everything, just as you told me. Good, because we will need them. She turned back to Leonard. Your proposal is unacceptable, and I suggest you review the state's laws on the financial exploitation of the elderly, because what they are trying to do here clearly fits that description. We are not exploiting anyone, Leonard said. But for the first time, he sounded uncertain. No. Then explain to me why your clients show up suddenly with legal documents already prepared, pressuring a 69-year-old woman to give up control of her property. Explain to me why they didn't ask her first. Why didn't they respect her choice to buy this house with her own money? Simone insisted. Because we're worried, she said. Is that so difficult to understand? We are her family, and we have the right to be concerned. Brenda responded that the issue is you had never worried before. Only now, when money is involved. You don't know anything about our family, Simone shouted. I know enough. I know your mother spent Mother's Day alone. I know she spent Christmas by herself. I know you never visited her, never called her, and now suddenly you're the children most concerned this year. You know what I think? I think you saw an opportunity, a house right on the ocean costing $180,000 and decided that money should be yours. $180,000? Marcus repeated, his eyes growing wide. You paid $180,000 for this house. That was the final confirmation. They weren't sure of the exact amount it cost, only that it was valuable. That was all your money, Marcus continued. All your savings, and you spent it on this without asking us first. Why would I need to ask you? I replied. It's my money. Simone finally spoke. That money was our inheritance. And at last she shared what they truly wanted. Your inheritance, I said slowly. Money I'm not yet gone to give you. Money I earned and saved. And you believe you have the right to it. You always said you would leave it to us, Marcus added. You always said that when you died, it would all be ours. Yes, when I die, not now. While I am still alive and in need of that money for my life. Your life? Simone scoffed. What life? You're an old woman alone. Why do you need a beach house? To be happy, I said simply. To have a place where I don't feel invisible, where I don't have to beg for attention, where I can just exist without feeling like I am too much. This is a mistake, Leonard said. Mrs. Boudreau, your children are justified in their concern. Making such a large purchase at your age without consulting anyone could be a sign of cognitive decline. Cognitive decline. Chloe mentioned her voice was dangerous. Are you telling me that a clear-minded woman who made a sound financial decision, who consulted lawyers, and did her homework has cognitive issues just because her children disagree with her choice? That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said, and I warn you that if you keep this up, I will file a formal complaint with the state bar. What they are doing here is harassment. It is manipulation, and I will not allow it to go on. Chloe is right, I said, finding my voice and strength. I want all of you to leave now. Mama, we can't leave like this. Marcus said we need to find a solution. There's nothing to solve. This is my house. I bought it with my money, and I will never sign any document. You'll regret this, Simone said. Her mask had finally fallen. There was no longer any sweetness or false concern. Only pure rage remained. You're going to end up alone, completely alone. And when you need us, we won't be there, Marcus warned. You know what? I replied. I've already been alone for years. You're just making it official. This isn't going to end here. Marcus threatened again. Is that a threat? Chloe asked. Because I hope you realize this entire conversation is being recorded. Every word, every threat is being recorded, Simone said, looking around. She saw the cameras and her face turned pale. You were recording us? She asked. Yes, I confirmed. Everything has been recorded since you arrived. This is illegal, Leonard exclaimed. Actually, it's not, Chloe corrected calmly. This is private property. Mrs. Budrow has every right to film what happens in her own home. And trust me, this video will be very useful if you decide to take any further legal steps, I added. Leonard then closed his briefcase. This isn't over. Oh, yes, it is over, I said. Now all of you leave and don't come back unless you're willing to treat me with respect, with genuine love, not this pretending. Simone looked at me with pure hatred. You are selfish. You've always been. Everything was always about you, never about us. It's funny you say that, I replied, because I spent my whole life making everything about you. But the first time I do something for myself, I'm selfish. You know what? Maybe I am. And maybe I should have been a long time ago. Marcus took Simone by the arm. Let's go. This is a waste of time. Go, I repeated, and don't come back. The three of them left. Leonard first, then Marcus, then Simone. She paused at the door, looked at me one last time. You're going to die alone, she said. Better alone than surrounded by people who only wanted me for my money, I replied. The door closed behind them. I heard the car start, drive away, and then I finally broke down. Brenda held me as I cried. I wept for everything, lost years, the love I never received, the betrayals, and the painful clarity of finally seeing my children for who they truly were. Yet I also felt a sense of relief, for it was all finally over. I had spoken the truth at last. I had defended myself. You did so well, Brenda quietly told me. You were so brave. I don't feel brave, I replied. I feel shattered. That's normal, she said, but it will pass and you'll feel better, I promise. Chloe was going through the recordings on her computer. She had connected the cameras and downloaded all the videos. This is gold, she said. We have everything documented. The threats, the admissions, the manipulation. If they try to take legal action, this will destroy them. I asked if they would try. Honestly, I wasn't sure. It depends on how desperate they become. But now we have something they didn't expect. Proof. And that gives us strength. They stayed with me that night, both of them. Brenda slept on the sofa, Chloe in the guest room, and for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. The next morning, Monday, Chloe returned early. We need to act now, she said. We can't just wait and see what they do. We have to get ahead of them. What do you recommend? I asked. First, we will strengthen the legal protections for this property. I plan to prepare documents that clearly show you are fully aware and in control of your mental abilities. We will also obtain medical evaluations and gather witnesses to testify about your competence. Is all that really necessary? I asked. Yes, because if they choose to pursue a case of mental incapacitation, we need to have undeniable proof. We cannot leave any room for doubt. For the next 2 weeks, I followed Chloe's advice exactly. I visited Dr. Wesley King, a respected geriatrician with 30 years of experience. He conducted exams, cognitive tests, memory assessments, everything needed to establish your mental state. Boudreau, after reviewing my results, he told me, "You are in excellent shape, your mind is clear, and your memory is outstanding. There are no signs of cognitive decline whatsoever. In fact, you're performing better than many people who are 20 years younger." He provided me with a detailed report, an official document confirming my mental fitness. I also saw a psychologist, Dr. Alana Jones. I shared everything with her about my children, about the abandonment and the betrayals. She listened carefully, took notes, and finally said something I will never forget. "Ara, what you have gone through takes incredible strength. Many others in your position simply give up. They accept the mistreatment and see neglect as normal, but you decided otherwise. You chose your happiness over their approval. That is not selfish. It is self-care. It is about maintaining your mental health." She also gave me a report confirming that I was emotionally stable. My decision to buy the house was made intentionally and thoughtfully, not out of depression or impulse. Chloe gathered everything: the medical reports, the videos, the text messages, the call logs, everything. Now, she said, we have a strong case. If they try anything, we are well prepared. Yet days went by without any action. Then weeks passed, no calls, no messages, no lawyer at my door. Absolute silence. That silence confirmed what I already suspected. They didn't miss me. They weren't worried. They were simply waiting, planning their next move. And Brenda warned me not to trust the calm. People like them don't give up so easily. She was right. About a month after their visit, I received a certified letter from Leonard Vance's law firm. I opened it with trembling hands. I read it over and over, once, twice, 3 times. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They were suing me. Simone and Marcus had filed a lawsuit, claiming I was mentally incapacitated. They were asking a judge to declare me incompetent and to appoint a legal guardian. Naturally, they offered themselves as candidates for that role. If they succeeded, they would have complete control over my life, my money, my house, everything. I immediately called Chloe. I already knew, she said. I received the notice that morning, and I was already getting ready to defend myself. How could they do this? How could they lie like that? It's because they are desperate and probably think they will win. They believe I am just an old woman with no resources, no defense, and no one to support me. But we have a real chance. Not only do we have a chance, we are going to win. And when we do, they will be exposed, they will be ridiculed, and they will have to pay the court costs. The hearing is in 6 weeks, which gives us plenty of time to prepare. During those 6 weeks, I worked harder than I had in years. Chloe trained me for what was to come. She guided me through practicing what I would say at the hearing, how I should behave, and what clothes to wear. She emphasized the importance of appearing competent, clear, confident. You must not hesitate, she told me. You cannot cry or show any signs of weakness. I repeatedly practiced in front of the mirror, memorizing my answers and trying to keep my emotions in check. Brenda also helped me prepare emotionally, constantly reminding me why I was doing this. She reminded me that I have the right to live my own life and that I don't owe anyone anything. They will try to make you feel guilty, she warned me. They might say you're a bad mother, that you abandoned your family, but I knew the truth, and that truth gave me strength. We also gathered witnesses, neighbors from my previous home, who could testify that Simone and Marcus never visited me, that they left me alone for days, weeks, or even months. The owner of the local hardware store where I often shopped and who has known me for many years could testify about my clarity of mind and independence. Dr. Alana and Dr. Wesley are both willing to provide testimony as well. Brenda can describe how I behaved during the house purchase, how I asked about every detail, carefully evaluated everything, and made a responsible, well-informed decision. We are going to show, Chloe said, that you are not only capable, but that you are even more competent than most of the people who will be in that courtroom. A week before the hearing, I received a call. It was Marcus. Mama, he said. His voice sounded tired and defeated. We can settle this. It doesn't have to go to court. What do you want, Marcus? I asked. Cancel the house purchase, give it back, and we will withdraw the lawsuit. Everything will go back to how it was, how it used to be. What's normal about that? The old normal where you ignore me, where you act like I don't exist. We can change, I promise. We'll visit more often. We will call you more. Just give back the house. No, Mama, please. This situation is getting out of control. It will go to the newspapers. It will become public. Do you want that? Do you want everyone to see your family fighting? I no longer care what others think. You are going to lose. Our lawyer says we have a strong case. Then I'll see you in court. Mama, I hung up. My hands were trembling, but I felt something else too. Something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Power. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, contemplating all the things that might happen, all the possible ways it could go wrong. But I also remembered why I needed to succeed. Not just for the house, not just for the money, but for my dignity, for my right to be heard, to be seen, to be valued, and to be respected. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got out of bed. I took a shower and dressed carefully, a simple, elegant suit in light gray. Nothing flashy, nothing that suggests I was trying too hard. Chloe arrived at 7. Ready? She asked. Ready, I replied. Brenda came along for moral support to remind me I wasn't alone. The ride to the courthouse was quiet, everyone deep in their own thoughts. We got there early, and the courtroom was still empty. We sat on the front benches. By 8:30 they arrived, Simone, Marcus, Leonard, and two others I didn't recognize, likely their witnesses. Simone looked at me, and I held her gaze without blinking or turning away. I was no longer afraid of her. I didn't feel small anymore in front of her. She was my daughter, yet also my opponent, and I was prepared to stand my ground. The judge entered promptly at 9, case number 2847. The clerk announced Simone Boudreau and Marcus Boudreau versus Allard Boudreau, a petition for declaring mental incapacity. The judge was an older man, around 60. He wore a serious expression with tired eyes. Very well, he said. Let's hear from the petitioners first. Leonard rose from his seat, walked to the middle of the room, straightened his suit, cleared his throat, and began to speak in that practiced lawyer's voice he had honed over the years. Your Honor, we are here today because two worried children are concerned about the well-being of their mother, Elara Boudreau, who is 69 years old. Mrs. Boudreau recently made a troubling financial choice. She used up her entire life savings, 180,000, to buy a property she does not need, a house on the coast far from her family and support system. This impulsive and unusual decision raises serious questions about her ability to handle her finances responsibly. I kept quiet. Chloe had warned me, don't react, don't show emotion, just let them speak. Moreover, Leonard added, Mrs. Boudreau has stopped communicating with her family. She has isolated herself and refused any help. She has hired lawyers and installed security cameras, as if her own family were a threat. This paranoid behavior is another sign of mental decline. Paranoia. He called me paranoid for protecting myself from them. My clients don't try to control their mother. They only want to ensure she is safe, not exploited, and that her final years are spent with dignity and protection. That is why we asked the court to appoint a legal guardian, someone to manage her finances and make decisions in her best interest. He sat down, satisfied with himself. The judge looked over his papers. Do you have witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. We call Simone Boudreau. Simone stood, walked to the stand, swore to tell the truth, sat down, and began her testimony. My mother was always a strong woman, she said. Her voice quivered just right, as if she were holding back tears. She raised us alone. She worked tirelessly. She gave us everything. In recent years, I've begun to notice some changes. She has become more forgetful and often seems confused. Occasionally, she calls and repeats the same stories or forgets that we have already spoken. It's a clear lie, a complete falsehood. Then suddenly, without informing anyone, she goes ahead and buys this house, a costly home in a place she had never visited, without discussing it with us or considering the consequences. When we learned what she had done, we tried to talk to her, but she became defensive and aggressive. She accused us of terrible things. She claimed we did not love her and that we had abandoned her. None of that is true. We are simply concerned. The judge asked how often you visited your mother before she made this purchase. Simone hesitated for a moment, just a second, but that was enough. Well, not as often as we would have liked. We both work and have our own families. Still, we called regularly. How frequently? Once or twice a month, she replied. More lies. Chloe knew it, I knew it, and soon the judge would realize it too. Leonard continued to ask more questions. Simone responded again with more falsehoods. They depicted me as a delicate, confused woman who was easily led astray. Then they contacted Marcus. He was more straightforward, less emotional. My mother has changed, he explained. She's not the same as before. She used to be reasonable. Now she's stubborn and unreasonable. She became fixated on the belief that we don't love her and that we abandoned her. But that simply isn't true. We have always been there for her. The judge asked, were you with her on Mother's Day this year? Marcus became tense. No, we had prior plans. The year before that, we also had commitments. When asked if he called her that day, he was silent. Mr. Boudreau, I'm asking if you called your mother on Mother's Day, the judge urged. He finally responded, I sent her a text in the evening. The judge made a note. After Marcus, Leonard tried to reach a psychiatrist, someone who had never met me, but had reviewed the case and believed it showed signs of decline. Chloe objected immediately. Your Honor, this witness has never assessed my client. He has never spoken to her, and his opinion is based entirely on information provided by the petitioners. This is completely unacceptable as evidence. The judge agreed, and the psychiatrist was not allowed to testify. Leonard looked frustrated. That is all, Your Honor. We rest our case. The judge then turned to Chloe. The defense wishes to present its case. Yes, Your Honor. Chloe stood up, and at that moment, everything changed. Your Honor, what we are seeing here is not a case of a mother suffering from mental decline. It is a situation where two grown children are trying to take advantage of their mother. It's that straightforward, and I will prove it. She moved to the center of the room, took out a remote control, and displayed the first video on the screen. It was recorded on Mother's Day. The table I had set was empty, my phone was silent, and then I looked at the screenshots from Simone's social media accounts. Photos of the restaurant and a caption, "A perfect Sunday with loved ones." This, Chloe explained, was how she spent Mother's Day this year. Mrs. Boudreau had prepared a meal and waited for her children, but they never came, never called, and instead celebrated with other people, the ones who truly matter. Her words, not mine. Simone sank into her chair as Chloe presented more evidence. Text messages, call logs, everything carefully documented. Over the past year, Chloe said, Simone Baudreau had called her mother just 4 times. Marcus Baudreau had called her only 3 times. Neither visited her even once, except when they found out she had purchased a valuable property. Suddenly, they appeared with a lawyer, holding legal documents, demanding she hand over control. She played a video of that day, the entire confrontation, every word, every threat. The judge watched the screen carefully, his face growing harder with each passing moment. When the video finished, Chloe spoke again. Your Honor, I would like to call my first witness, Ilara Boudreau. I rose from my seat, my legs felt unsteady, but I moved steadily to the stand. I swore to tell the truth. I sat down and took a steadying breath. Chloe came over and offered me a gentle, reassuring smile. Mrs. Boudreau, can you tell us why you decided to buy the beach house? I replied, because I needed a place where I wouldn't feel invisible. My voice was clearer than I had expected. I explained that I had spent years waiting for my children to notice me, to include me, to love me for Urtetsar, but they never did. Eventually, I realized that if I wanted a meaningful life, I had to create it myself. Chloe asked, did anyone pressure you into making this purchase? I responded, no, it was entirely my choice. I spent weeks researching, talking to the seller, consulting with you, and checking with my bank. It was a well-informed, responsible decision. At any point, did you feel confused or uncertain about what you were doing? Never. I was completely sure. Can you tell us what happened when your children found out about the purchase? I explained everything calmly and clearly without shedding tears. I told him about Simone's call, how they showed up unexpectedly, about the documents they brought, and the threats, everything. Leonard tried to discredit me. He aimed to trip me up or make me angry. Mrs., isn't it true that you have memory problems? No, I forget ordinary things that everyone forgets, like where I left my keys or whether I turned off the stove. But I do not forget important conversations. I remember my commitments and my children. Isn't it true that you are resentful of your children? I am not resentful. I am hurt. There's a difference. Resentment is bitter. Hurt is honest. Don't you think your children have a right to feel concern? They would have that right if they were truly worried, but they are not. Their concern is about the money, not about me. Chloe then called Dr. Wesley King. He provided testimony about my assessments, confirming my excellent mental health and complete mental clarity. In his professional opinion, he stated that Mrs. Boudreau is fully capable of understanding and functioning normally. There are no indications whatsoever of cognitive decline. In fact, her mental sharpness is extraordinary. Afterward, Dr. Alana Jones testified. She discussed my emotional well-being, noting my strength and my ability to make tough but necessary choices. She explained that such decisions demand exceptional mental resilience. Many people in similar situations remain stuck in harmful relationships because they lack the courage to leave. I did. That is not madness, it is bravery. Brenda then gave her testimony. She described the process of her purchase, explaining how I asked about every detail, how I checked everything carefully, and how my behavior was entirely normal and responsible. In the end, Chloe presented additional evidence: text messages from Marcus asking to borrow $500, which he never paid back. Broken promises, canceled visits, everything is documented. Your Honor, Chloe concluded, what we see here is not an incompetent mother. It is a mother who finally decided enough is enough, who put her own needs first, and as a result, her children cannot accept it. They are not worried about her well-being, but are concerned about their inheritance. They fear that the money they believed was theirs is no longer available. Consequently, they fabricated this story of mental incapacity. But as we have demonstrated today, that is precisely what it is: a story, a lie, and an attempt to financially exploit an elderly adult. She sat quietly as the judge reviewed his notes, which seemed to go on forever. The courtroom was completely silent. Only the ticking of the clock on the wall could be heard. Finally, he looked up. I have heard enough, he said, and I have seen enough. My decision is as follows. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought everyone could hear it. The request to declare Mrs. Arabadro mentally incapacitated is fully denied. It is clear that Mrs. Arabudro is fully capable of managing her own mental faculties. She made an informed and responsible choice regarding her finances, and she has every right to live her life as she wishes. I felt the relief flood back into my chest. The judge continued, stating that this lawsuit was frivolous and driven by financial motives. The petitioners will be responsible for all court expenses, and he warned Mr. Simone and Mr. Marcus Boudreau that any future attempts to bother or manipulate their mother will be met with the harshest penalties under the law. The gavel struck, and the case was closed. Chloe hugged me tightly. Brenda was moved to tears. I stood there, frozen, trying to understand what had just happened. I had won. I glanced over to where Simone and Marcus were. Simone's eyes were filled with tears, but they weren't tears of sadness, more like tears of anger and shame. Marcus wasn't paying attention to me. His gaze was fixed on the floor. Leonard was hurriedly gathering his papers, clearly eager to leave as quickly as possible. Then Simone looked at me one last time. She didn't speak, but her eyes conveyed everything. This wasn't the end for her. In her mind and heart, it wasn't over, but for me, it was finished. I had finally achieved something more valuable than just winning the lawsuit. I had gained my freedom. I left the courthouse with my head held high. The afternoon sun struck my face, momentarily blinding me, but it was a bright, warm sun promising new beginnings. Chloe walked beside me with Brenda on the other side, both of them smiling, both feeling proud. You did perfectly, Chloe told me. It couldn't have gone better. I responded, thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have known what to do. Thank you, she corrected, for having the courage to stand up for yourself, for not giving in, for believing you deserve something better. We stopped on the sidewalk. Traffic moved past. People strolled by. The world continued as usual. Yet I felt different, lighter, as if I had left behind a heavy burden in that courtroom. What will you do now? Brenda asked. Just live, I replied. Simply just live. That night, back in my house by the sea, I sat on the porch. I listened to the waves and watched the stars. And for the first time in many years, I felt a true sense of peace. It wasn't the peace of giving up. It wasn't the peace of denial. It was the peace of someone who had finally fought and come through. The peace of someone who had defended herself and survived. The days that followed felt strange. I thought I might feel sadness, guilt, or regret. But none of those feelings appeared. Only a deep sense of calm, a quiet confidence that I had done the right thing. I didn't hear from Simone or Marcus. No calls, no messages, no efforts to make amends. And I wasn't surprised because it had never truly been about me. It was about the money, the inheritance, the control. And now that they had lost both, there was no reason to keep pretending. A week after the hearing, I was watering my plants when I noticed a woman walking along the beach. She was older, perhaps around my age. She wore a wide-brimmed hat and moved slowly, carefully. She stopped in front of my house, looked at me, and smiled. Excuse me, she said. Are you Mrs. Boudreau? Yes, I answered cautiously. I read about you in the paper, about the lawsuit. I hope you don't mind me mentioning it. My heart quickened. I hadn't realized anything about the case had been published. It was just a small notice in the local section, she explained. But it caught my attention because I have children too. And I've also felt, well, I've felt what you felt. She took a few steps closer so I could see her eyes more clearly. They were filled with a deep understanding of shared pain. My name is Ruth, she said. Ruth Peterson, and I just want to tell you that I truly admire what you did. I respect your courage. Thank you, I replied. My voice sounded softer than I had expected. May I ask you something? Yes. How did you know it was the right moment? How did you know you had to walk away? I paused for a moment, lost in thought, remembering. I believe I knew when I realized I was waiting for love from people who had chosen not to give it. I could spend the rest of my life waiting, or I could choose to start living, and I decided to live. Ruth nodded slowly. Tears shone in her eyes. I'm still waiting, she said softly, waiting for my children to see me, to value me. But each day it becomes more difficult. Maybe it's time for you to stop waiting, I told her gently. Perhaps it's time for you to choose yourself. She smiled through her tears. Maybe you're right, she said. Would you like to have a cup of coffee? I offered it right here on the porch with a view of the ocean. I would love to. It has been 2 years since that hearing. 2 years since I said enough. 2 years since I made the decision that my life belonged only to me. The house by the sea still remains my safe place. Every morning I wake up to the gentle sound of the waves. Each afternoon I enjoy watching the sunset from my porch. And every night I sleep peacefully, a sense of peace I never knew before. A peace I didn't realize could be possible. Simone and Marcus never looked for me again. No call, no message, not even on my birthday or Christmas. And that's okay. It truly is, because during these 2 years I learned something important. I cannot make anyone love me. I cannot beg to be loved, not even by my own children. Genuine love isn't something to be begged for. It isn't about negotiations. It isn't bought with sacrifices, silence, or crumbs of attention. True love either exists or it doesn't. And with Simone and Marcus, it simply was not the right path. However, I found love in other parts of my life. In Brenda, who became the sister I never had. In Ruth, who finally gathered the courage to leave children who only reached out when they needed something. And in Mr. Percy, who passed away 6 months ago and left me his dog captain in his will, knowing I would care for him, was the same love he had. Aaliyah writes to me every few months, sending secret letters that she hides from her mother. She shares stories about school, her dreams, and how she aspires to be strong like me when she grows up. I reply to her. I tell her about this sea, about the importance of choosing oneself, and how genuine love never makes you feel small. One day she will come to visit when she is older and able to make her own choices, and I will be here waiting for her, not with resentment toward her parents, not with bitterness, but with open arms and a heart full of a love she never had to earn, a love that was always hers. I have learned that family isn't always defined by blood. Sometimes it's the people who appear in your life exactly when you need them most, the ones who see you, who value you, who choose to stay. I have learned that it's okay to set boundaries, that it's okay to say no, that it's okay to walk away from those who hurt you, even if they share your last name. I have learned that it's never too late to start anew, that at 69 you can create a completely different life, one filled with purpose, one that is truly yours. And I have learned that forgiving doesn't always mean making up or reconciling. I can forgive Simone and Marcus for what they did to me and still decide not to have them in my life. I can wish them well from a distance. I can release the pain without compromising my boundaries. This morning, I took a walk along the beach. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm orange and pink glow across the sky. At that moment, I felt something I hadn't experienced in many years. Deep, genuine gratitude. Gratitude for the courage it took to leave, for finding this house, and for the people who arrived exactly when I needed their support. I am thankful to be alive, to be free, and to simply be myself. Occasionally, people ask if I regret my choices, if I miss my children, or wish things had turned out differently. The answer is complicated. Yes, I do miss the children I once knew, the babies I held in my arms, the little ones who called me mama with voices filled with love. But I no longer miss the adults they became. I don't miss the pain, the feeling of invisibility, but the sense of being a burden in their lives. Do I wish things had been different? Absolutely. I wish I had children who truly loved me, who appreciated me, who chose me as their mother. But that didn't happen. I've had to accept that reality and find the strength to move forward. Looking back now, I can honestly say I made the right choice. Saving myself was the bravest thing I have ever done. Choosing myself was not an act of selfishness, it was a matter of survival. This house by the sea is more than just a safe place. It is a symbol, a daily reminder that I deserve beauty. I deserve peace. I deserve a life worth living. Each morning I wake up here, see the ocean, and breathe in this fresh, salty air. I am living that life. It may not be the life I pictured when I was young. It might not be the life I dreamed of when my children were little. But it is my life, completely mine. And it is enough, more than enough. It contains everything I need. If you are reading this, if you are listening to my story and see yourself in it, I want you to understand something. It is never too late. It's never too late to choose yourself, to set boundaries, and to create a life that truly makes sense for you. No matter your age or how long you have been waiting, no matter how much you have given up or sacrificed, you deserve to be seen, appreciated, and chosen. If the people around you cannot offer that, perhaps it's time to look for new connections, new places, or new beginnings. Because life is too short to spend it waiting for love from those who will never give it. Life is too valuable to waste feeling unseen. So here's a question for you. How much longer will you wait? How much longer will you accept little bits when you truly deserve a full, satisfying feast? How much longer will you let others decide your worth? I waited too long, almost my entire life. When I finally stopped waiting and started living, everything changed. You can change your life as well. Today, right now, in this very moment, you just need to choose yourself, as I ultimately chose myself. For most of my life, I believed love meant waiting, waiting eagerly for my children to call, visit, or simply remember I exist. One day I understood that love isn't shown through waiting, but through living. When I stopped waiting and chose to focus on myself, everything changed. I discovered peace, happiness, and a new kind of family made up of people who truly see me. So if you've ever felt invisible, keep this in mind. You are enough just as you are today. It's never too late to start anew. If my story resonates with you and you enjoyed it, please show your support by liking the video. I'd love to know how many of us are out there. Tell me in the comments which city you're listening from. If you wish to support my journey, you can send a small donation. Thank you for listening and for sharing your valuable time with me. For more stories like this, check out the other videos on my channel and subscribe. On the screen, there are 2 new stories I believe you'll enjoy. Click on one and start listening right now. With love.